Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
It's Commander's Horn, episode 120. Today I'm joined by the Nilfgaard Ambassador Jaggerous, as well as TLG's Jaggerous. Also, Team Rankstar's BabyJosus is joining me as well. And we're going to be chatting all about Iron Judgement, brand new expansion, hotfix has already hit, everything is settled, and we have the rest of the season of the cat to look forward to. Let's get into it here on this episode of Commander's Horn. Good afternoon, everybody. It is October 10th, 2019. I had to check to make sure that was right. It's a great day for another episode of Commander's Horn Podcast. Just want to do a quick apology to my previous guests, Ryan Godric and Lothari, as well as everybody who's been waiting for this episode to finally come out, which is the next episode of Commander's Horn. Since September 26th, I've been dealing with internet issues. Everything was fixed on Monday, and I haven't dropped a frame since. So here we are on the podcast. I got two guests on. Ryan Godric and Lothari are invited back into the podcast anytime they are available, and they know that. I let them know. But we are going to move forward with, I guess, the first released episode in quite some time. And my guests are Jaggerous, Nilfgaard Ambassador, and newest member of TLG. How are you, Jaggerous?
I'm good. I'm like smashing Gwent at the moment. I'm loving the patch. I'm pretty happy. How are you doing?
I'm great. You're smashing with what, though?
Oh, a mix of things. I played some monsters. I played some Deathwish. I played some Nilfgaard, of course. And then recently, Harmony. Harmony has been my jam.
Harmony.
You know, because we're clearly not sick of it from last patch. We were like, let's just go back to that. Dwarves are out. Harmony is in. That's where you should be investing.
It's the nature of balance, right? You just look at the numbers and it's like, dwarves are good. Yeah, dwarves are better than Harmony? They might be. And then, you shave 7 points down. And then you look at it again, and it's just, Harmony might actually end up being better. BabyJosus, what do you think about that? Also, thanks for coming on the podcast. Welcome to Team Rankstars. BabyJosus, how are you, man?
Thank you for having me, McBeard. I'm doing pretty grand, man. Just streaming Gwent, trying out the new expansion, so all is good. And
good.
I love Harmony myself too. So I was really excited to see Jaggerous' new Harmony deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, because Francesca has to play Francesca, right? It's not really like that now. It's Mystic Echo, so now you how do you self-identify anymore? I mean, now you can be Francesca for every deck. Isn't that kind of like the best part about it?
No, I'm going through the process of changing my name. I'm going to be called Mystique, and then my middle name is going to be Echo. So Mystique, Echo, Jagger.
Plot twist.
We're going to have to do that because otherwise, I can't make my jokes. Well, I can still make my jokes, but it's not as fun.
Oh man, what world is Gwent if Jaggerous can't make her jokes? I don't know if I want to live in that world. That's some good stuff.
No.
All right, so my friends, it's like I'm just so happy to be holding a call and being able to support this. But I do have to remember this is a podcast before we get into some pretty organic discussion about, I guess, the things we like the most and the things that we maybe we could talk about the hotfix as well. I just want to say that this episode is recorded live at twitch.tv/McBearded, where I am preparing to continue. I mean, this is notes from last week where I was preparing for the next expansion, but we're already deep into it. I've got about like 5 deck guides out. Northern Realms, hopefully we can get that working. Pincer Maneuver seems good. Anyway, you can find all that stuff on youtube.com/c/McBeard. And if you're watching it right now, let me know what you think in the comments. And this episode is brought to you by the Commandos. Oop, that's not it.
Commandos!
There we go. Different stream deck. Big thank you to all the Commandos, the full regiment right now. I just want to give a huge thank to Bradley S., Danny V., Alec R., Brandon P., Carol M., Christina V., Wesley H., Connor D., Kenneth K., Gray Boxer, Blake K., Matt W., Etienne R., Lucas N. There's 28, so don't worry. It's not like forever. It's just 28. Matt G., DG Thunderer, Michael T., Stephen H., Ithlin, SP Timbo, Mark C., Guden, Powell F., Eamon M., Greg M., Daniel G., Devil Driven, and Les A. All right, guys, I just wanted to get that out there because I'm nothing without the supporters of the Commandos, my subs, and also on Patreon. So thanks very, very much. We're going to do some really exciting stuff coming up because we're back. We got the script open. My guests have notes. It's good. Iron Judgment's awesome. Opening thoughts about the expansion, guys. Like, I think it feels very good. You guys
It does feel really good, yeah. It's like every faction has like at least one viable deck, I feel like. Maybe Skellige not the most viable. You know, you have Iced that is being played, or I should say, what's the ability called? I don't even know.
Second Wind.
But Second Wind, that's the one.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but you know, overall, I'm really happy with the diversity in the expansion.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jaggerous?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. I think actually deck or the faction that I've been seeing the most diversity in is monsters. You have like Deathwish stuff, you have bleeding stuff, you have Thrive stuff, you have bug stuff. So monster seems to be the one that most people are kind of playing around with, right? And then NR, you've got full test stuff and pincer maneuver stuff, which I like both of.
Yeah.
Skellige, I think people are going to figure out. I think Skellige, people are kind of sleeping on it maybe a little bit, and we'll see some things crop up soon. Squirtle is a bit of a mess, like because of the hotfix. I think the hotfix was a little bit heavy-handed in the way that they approached dwarves, because the problem with dwarves is in some ways was just that Justice, Nilfgaardian Justice,
Yeah, right.
can be double played. But if you change Mystic Echo or something to just replay a nature card or something like that, then you kind of handle that issue. So I think in some ways they kind of approached it weirdly, but now then there's harmony
again.
stuff.
Yeah, it's just waters again in that case.
Which is just waters, and then you can just put in like the dwarf package into that if you feel like that's working. Like I've been playing like Figgis and Monroe, just because they're quite good.
As you should. I mean, they're just really strong cards.
But Harmony's fun in that you can actually do a lot within that deck in terms of what you want for your Harmony triggers. You can do some kind of dwarf things, but you can take out the dwarf package if you want, maybe say like Milan or Kieran and more control. Like I think that's going to be the archetype that you see the most variation in on the ladder. And then Nilfgaard's just Nilfgaard. We play Enslave. We enslave everyone.
I mean, Enslave is also my favorite as well. I just, when it comes to Nilfgaard, I just think that they just do control really well. I think Skellige does it well as well. Like the fact that they just have Joust and Assassination. Skellige has like Stunning Blow and Gutting Slash. Like I just like those nice cheap killers. Northern Realms doesn't really have a cheap killer, which is something that bugs me a little bit.
And then I think Syndicate's probably the strongest faction in the game. That was the only faction I hadn't touched.
Do you agree with that, BJ?
Yeah, I do agree. Like after they nerfed dwarves, Syndicate is like the best faction at the moment because with Louisa and like Savola, that's such a strong combo and like a really short round.
Yeah.
And then they get like one of the greatest defenders. So yeah, overall they got some really good cards added to the card pool, and they already have like really good cards like Morils, Ewald, Witch Executioner. So
Ewald's a really good card, yeah. And they got also strong mid-range options like the big dogs, the big scary dogs.
Yeah,
big doggo.
The big doggos.
Yeah. That's a strong card indeed.
Guys, I'm just so excited to do the news transition because I haven't done it in so many episodes, but we should be talking about this hotfix, I think. We should just be talking about the hotfix in general because people might be getting this news, probably not for the first time. BabyJosus says no, he doesn't want to do that. Or that's just chat about something else. Of course, I'm kidding. I just like, just a shout out to Tien Gabor. I'm talking over it too. I'm just doing this on purpose, but shout out to Tien Gabor for all the hard work he did on the podcast. So I think that
hotfix. Yeah. Is that what we're talking about?
The hotfix, right. So this was a big hotfix, but it wasn't very long listed. It was dwarves, right? They got hit. Rowdy dwarves lost their armor. Tokens that are produced by many different cards. So if you value that armor as more than 1 or less than, or I guess more than 0, you could say that nerf hits pretty hard because you make a lot of things with armor. But they also got hit. Mystic Echo lost a provision point. Zoltan lost a point, or got more expensive and also lost a little bit of strength. Barkley lost a bit of strength, and the Mahakam Guard lost a bit of strength. And then Skellige got 2 kind of strange buffs. So overall, though, the dwarves were targeted, but Squirtle isn't dead, I think is kind of like the talking point that we could start off with. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, dwarves, it's less strong as it was, but you have Harmony going on, so Squirtle is in a good spot at the moment. I do feel like the Mystic Echo nerf was maybe a little bit, not necessary, but Zoltan Chive felt maybe a little bit too much. Maybe they should have just went for the proficient nerf. And Rowdy dwarves, I mean, you can remove their armor, and I don't think the armor was really a big problem because you could just play Surrender and then you kill them anyway. So
I don't know. I think that it was Surrender felt too expensive, and they could just make so many more and fill the row so fast. I just don't think it's fair that you had to play a gold card at 8. Like anything above 6 for a tech, I feel, I don't know, uneasy.
yeah, okay, but yeah, okay.
I don't know. It's just me, maybe.
It's personal opinion, I think.
I kind of feel like now's actually not a bad time to play dwarves. Like I don't think the dwarf deck is completely terrible. I think the dwarf deck does better than Harmony or against Harmony, in that kind of Scoia'tael mirror because it has targeted removal with the Dwarven Mercs. And the thing is, people have taken out all of their tech for dwarves since the nerf. So now's actually, to be honest, if you're going to go down the dwarf route, a good time to do it. I don't know. I think like the things that they nerfed weren't really the things that were an issue with the deck. Like Guard and Barkley, you had to stack a bunch of dwarves to do it, So in terms of targeting them, I feel like that's maybe not really where the deck was shining. So the deck can still shine without those cards. But it also kind of feels like people got used to dwarves and people weren't really so upset about dwarves, and then they nerfed them. And that leaves decks like Pincer Maneuver and Syndicate, what's it called, wildcard decks. I think them getting untouched is then just like it's given them an extra edge, which when they were already pretty strong.
I mean, no lie, the Pincer Maneuver is really good, and I need to get better with it, but man, it can really just hand me my ass. I will just disagree with you on Mahakam Guard specifically. It just really wasn't that hard to fill up with dwarves, and it was just so good. It's just so good. So it's like an engine that you didn't have to let survive. You just had to put all these little resilient things that your opponent is trading down, usually trying to remove. I just think the Mahakam Guard was probably the biggest offender. I think that the Mystic Echo thing, they nerfed that combo like a play 2 cards in 1 turn ability, and they didn't touch any other ones. It's interesting. I mean, now you have stuff that seems like Patricidal Fury is... Nah, that's a bad example, I guess. I mean, do you think that that being the only leader ability being touched, do you think that was kind of strange? Do you think that was very reactive? In general?
I think CDPR also have to do things about what makes the community feel good. It's not necessarily about what's overpowered. There's also what makes your player base happy. And sometimes I think when you adjust things, you do it because it makes other people happy, even if it's maybe slightly heavy-handed. And considering Mystic Echo was very, very common last month,
true,
seeing it then continue to be oppressive this month makes people upset. Your players are upset, then they leave your game, and then so I think in some ways they're catering to the players. But I agree with you. I think that with power creep, leaders which allow you to play 2 cards in 1 turn when Gwent is balanced around playing 1 card in 1 turn are potentially going to become an issue. And that's why we see Wildcard. That's why we see Pincer Maneuver. That's why we see Mystic Echo, because they allow you to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, BabyJosus.
And like the wild card, like just so easy to get so many engines or cards to be played in like 1 turn. It's crazy, and that's why everyone is playing. And maybe they have to. Maybe a nerf is not enough. Maybe they have to redesign the wall ability of the leader if it's too problematic.
Oh man, that's scary though. Like we just got through another huge change with the leader decoupling, which is not even, it's just a cosmetic change, but I feel like whenever they make these huge shifts, like now they're making bronzes better and now the bronzes are too good, and then they release an expansion and they realize that the 2 good bronzes are even better now in some interactions. I think the Mahakam Guard there is probably just like the main example of something that just got a ton of tools but kind of got buffed because it was bad before. So there's a lot of cards like that are suffering. And then the idea that they would be changing multiple leaders again when they just decoupled them and changed all the names of the leaders, it's exhausting a little bit. I mean, it's not a surprise though. It's not like Gwent doesn't do that.
With things like, say, Pincer Maneuver, and this isn't something I'm going to say I haven't really thought this through in any kind of significant capacity, but if you want to change these cards without necessarily getting rid of them, do you change to something like play a bronze Northern Realm card and then draw a card from your deck? Because that way at least you're playing 2 cards in 1 turn, but one of them has to be a bronze card, so it kind of tones it down slightly without completely gutting the ability. Or do you think that if you do that, then Pincer Maneuver just doesn't see play?
I mean, it's the thing is, playing a bronze card is often like just what you need. Syndicate is doing that right now. Like the fact that you're playing wild card just to get that extra poison or that extra slander or that extra dip in the Pontar or whatever you need, just to get that leverage, just to get that extra push, because you know the rest of the game is like in your complete control, or you have this incredible explosive points with Luisa Savola, Ewald, full bank of coins because you didn't spend any because you got the free tributes and stuff like that. It's no doubt that it's really good. The play rate's probably a bit low. I tried Syndicate this week. They're hard to play, I think.
Yeah, they're not that easy.
They're hard to play.
Because you have to take into account the coins that you get and the coins that you need to spend.
Yeah.
But that's what I said, right?
Different.
Syndicate is not the easiest faction. It's just it's not for beginners. That's what I said, I think, when it released originally.
Yeah, for sure. Syndicate has the highest skill ceiling of all of the factions because there's that much more decision making and forward planning in terms of your mulligan. Are you going to have enough profit? In terms of the sequencing, how are you going to play your spenders and all that? And honestly, I feel like half the time the reason I can beat Syndicate is just because they play badly. And when we spoke to pro players at Challenger, was it Colomon? I think he said that he doesn't think anyone plays Syndicate at the highest level.
It was him or DeMarcus. But it was him or DeMarcus basing that comment on the other one's performance. Like even X didn't play it correctly because no one was really playing it correctly, like completely correctly. But you have to kind of gamble a little bit on your coins. I think if there were more tournaments that were like, when in the Gwent Slam days and stuff where there were tournaments like every month, I think if there were more tournaments that were front facing, we'd probably see a little bit more complaining about Syndicate because the best players play it the best, right? Nilfgaard Spies was a very high skill cap deck as well that was really strong for a long time, but wasn't touched until I can't even remember. It was like well after Challenger 2, and maybe they weren't even like oppressive at that point. That was when Consume was just coming out. So I think that Syndicate being a high skill cap faction that is strong is probably okay, but tournaments, I think, like pro play, like when money's on the line, that's going to probably make more decisions will be made for like play rate. Play rate isn't going to be indicative of their power, I think, for a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if you followed the EGC, the European Gwent Collective tournament that happened this weekend, I think it was just the weekend just gone by.
Yeah, just this Pajabal one.
By the bracketed stage, people were just banning Syndicate. During the Swiss, people were banning Dwarves, people were banning Mystic Echo, but by the end of it, people were like, nah, like I can beat Dwarves, I can't easily beat Syndicate if someone knows how to play it well. So I think I would say Syndicate is, in my opinion, currently the best faction, but I think a lot of the factions are fairly competitive. It doesn't feel like, a couple months ago when it was all full test and Dijkstra. Like, I feel like overall the balance isn't too bad, and especially considering we just had an expansion, and usually when that happens we just throw balance up in the air and then hope it lands somewhere like without breaking,
or at least
this
the first
time around I know this time around they've thrown balance in the air and then somehow caught it, and it's not, I don't think it's too bad. Like there are some things that annoy me. Savola, for example, I feel like is a little bit frustrating. I would like Luisa to be in order, at least then, so you have the option of reacting to it.
With defenders in the game, that seems completely fair. That seems very fair.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, because you have defenders, and especially because Syndicate has a double defender. So let's say you play your Scarabs, then they answer one Scarab, then you play Luisa. They still have to answer the other Scarab before they can interact with her, at which point you can trigger her order. So like, yeah, it kind of depends. But I think Syndicate is like maybe could do with a little bit of adjusting. But other than that, like nothing feels too bad in my opinion. Do you guys feel like anything feels really bad?
See, the thing is, like I'm a certain kind of player. So I mean, I'm not a pro rank yet. I'm at rank 2 at the moment, and I'm only seeing so much. And like, I'll make mistakes with good decks, tons of mistakes, and my opponents will make tons of mistakes against me too. So I don't feel like until I see. That's what I'm saying about competition. Like I feel like the real cutting edge like definition of what gets OP is really pushed by tournaments. Go ahead. I think I interrupted you, BabyJosus. Pick up where you wanted to go there.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Like I was kind of weirded out that they did not touch Syndicate at all. But maybe it's because it's such a skilled deck to play that only a few people play it compared to Dwarf deck, and that's maybe why they only touched Dwarves. Yeah.
I mean, it was last in the faction challenge, wasn't it?
Syndicate was?
Yeah, I think so.
It was on the heels of.
Didn't do well.
It was during the coin bug, I think, and it was also right after Dijkstra
Yeah.
dominance meta. So it could have been people who were sick of it, but to see it last was very shocking. I remember when I saw it last. I thought that was shocking.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not one that you really get for free with the cards, because obviously you have to buy the Syndicate kegs in order to do that. So I think it's one of these decks that, because it's played a little bit less than the other ones, it doesn't feel as oppressive as something like Squirtle, where you just type dwarf in the search bar, put some cards in a deck, and you're pretty much good to go.
Mhm.
I mean, that deck felt really optimized so quickly. Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot cooler for faction challenges if they gave the experience boost during the event and they gave the experience boost to the last place faction. And then they made it and they ramped it up like that. But it would change as it progressed. As your faction got more and more popular, you would be less incentivized to play it. So you can still, I mean, I don't know how that would work. It feels like a stock market thing. Like it would only like grow if people invest, and it, you know, I don't know. But I just feel like I don't like the idea of like 2 weeks of the most popular faction will be the most popular faction again next week, because that's where the experience boosts are, and it's just, that's going to influence most gamers, I think. So
I wonder if Faction Challenge Experience Boost stacks with GWENT Stay Experience Boost, because now we have GWENT Stay.
It was
Oh,
confirmed.
man.
That's
I'm just
news.
gonna only play Gwent on Wednesdays that have Faction Challenge rewards, and then I'm just gonna be like, I'll be Prestige 10 in no time.
Get that golden flag.
Ooh, that looks really beautiful.
Yeah, Wednesday. So every Wednesday you get a 25% experience boost no matter what. Playing anywhere you get experience, you get 25% more. Just play Gwen on Wednesday. If you only play some days, Wednesday is the day to play. So I think that's actually just like a really cool, nice little bonus, and encourages people to play on a certain day, which means that there could be just a little bit more excitement around that day, which is, you know, the middle of the week. So it's probably the least interesting day of the week generally. For sure.
Fair enough. Although it's also Witchery Wednesday, right?
Witcher
It
Wednesday?
kinda conflicts with, Witcher Wednesday. It kind of conflicts with each other, but you know, we are all about Gwent, of course.
Yeah, well, at least it won't influence Cyberpunk Saturday. I don't know. So let's.
No, but that's Shoop Saturday. What are you doing?
Shoop Saturday.
No, this is terrible.
Don't let Repic hear you. Shoop Day is every day. Shout out to Repic. Shout out to man. CDPR had Hideo Kojima visit on Monday. Also shout out to Alicia. Happy birthday. It's just that's super cool. There's a picture of him sitting on the Gwent throne in the studio.
Yeah.
So like he sat in a place that I sat.
That you sat.
And you sat also. Jaggerous. Did you get to see the studio at all? BabyJosus, who is also present for Challenger 5, by the way.
Yeah, I was a viewer.
Well, you were in a room that Hideo was in. That's still like better than most people can say.
I mean,
I really like
one degree of separation.
The studio is really cozy, right? Like, if you imagine herding all of those spectators into the studio, like, here it is. Here's all of our expensive camera equipment.
Oh, man,
Don't touch anything.
Such a zoo. Yeah, exactly. Don't touch the cameras. That's probably the liability that you can't just let anybody in there. But yeah, I mean, the production, the behind the scenes is so cool. 1 degree of butt placement separation. That's like gonna be the only chat thing that I read. Rogue Digit. Sorry, I just had to. I was still in streamer mode. We played today earlier. Generally the expansion added a lot of stuff, right? It added defenders and it added armor, and you know the other stuff like exposed barricade. It all kind of works together. But the big thing is the fact that armor has reduced the effectiveness of damage, random pings especially. Some leaders like Krokon Crate and Ethna also suffer a little bit like that too. Ooh. So I mean, in general, like. Then you have monsters that have 4 very playable leaders and 2 kind of, you know, but it's still like you'd rather have 4 playable leaders, and any faction would rather have that. But I feel like it's all still very up in the air right now. So in general, with the first expansion with faction cards in 6 months, how do you feel about the actual mechanics, the defender and armor specifically, affecting the game and the meta that we play in right now?
I mean, with defender, you can play like Damien or like Steven or Lethal Kingslayer on like on a Damien or a Steven, so it makes those cards really playable, and that's kind of fun because I haven't touched those cards in like forever. But I do think that maybe Defender is a little bit too oppressive and should maybe only defend the adjacent units.
It's very controllable though. It just means I guess you couldn't stack like 4 engines.
Yeah.
That's true. You can purify it, you can move it. It's not too hard.
I think some of the issue with defenders being added to the patch when they is control was already kind of bad, right? Like we were currently in an engine meta, so then adding a mechanic that supports engine meta and also adds armor, which denies damage, which is part of control meta, basically just nerfs control even further to the point where the kind of control strategies that we see, I mean, you have like Ardle, which can, or sorry, Enslave, which can like kidnap your defender. And then by doing that, they can then target all of your stuff. So they're kind of okay. And then because they have defenders, they can then replay leader. So they've kind of gotten away with it. Alternatively, if you go like Deathwish with things like Maruna and Manticore, they are random. So that allows you to control cards without having to play around the defender. But other than that, like if you look at the other decks, there's a lot of engine decks going around. And there's a reason like why Syndicate, for example, is so good at the moment, because previously at least you could kill their spenders. But now it's like, well, I gotta somehow kill this 1-point bug and his 1-point bug friend before I can do anything. At which point Syndicate's already started to play combo pieces. Whereas before, you know, you could kind of deal with Syndicate a little bit because they'd have to play, say, a Slander or a Caleb, and then they'd play their Executioner, at which point you had a chance to answer it. But at the moment, you don't have that chance to answer, say, the Executioner or the Ewald or the Caleb or whatever because of these defenders. And I think that's why these decks are doing so well. But, like, I don't mind it. I don't feel like... I mean, everyone has defenders, right? It's not like it's one faction's thing.
Yeah,
exactly. So that makes it feel a bit better.
Yeah, there's some factions can make better use than it than others, but I mean, it's weird. Like they all have like strengths and weaknesses that, like Nilfgaard's defender is super weak to like Geralt Axie, for example, purifies and destroys the buff on him and stuff like that. Like Baron is also good, or really any reset is good against it, but it's still a very strong defender because that faction also has access to a second defender because you can just Yennefer's Invocation that defender on the opponent's side of the board and just play whatever they're playing. So, I mean, that's like, I feel like that's super fair in that like trade-off. Syndicate has a trade-off that's just their defenders are Swearsable, I guess. Like there's that, I suppose. And the fact that Nilfgaard being popular means that there's diviners all over the place. So defenders are just a little bit worse. Double dip on Purify for Northern Realms as well. Monsters is actually really good because 7's a safe number and it's really hard to hit it. So I feel like you need targeted removal against that. Yeah, I mean... There's ways to deal with all of them, and but one I'd bet you is just like, or anything that kills armored units kills Figus. So there's at least that. I don't know. I feel like and what was the last one? I feel like I talked about all of them but one.
Skellige, which is rubbish.
Skellige.
Oh, Skellige's, yeah. There's the Sucrus combo, which is pretty memey. I mean, no one really plays
oh God.
it. So.
I heard about that, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
But that's
Is it Sucrus combo's unnecessary, right? The thing is, your defenders do well enough that you don't need to run Sucrus in Syndicate. Skellige defender, she's a bit underwhelming. I mean, they can resurrect her if you're running Second Wind, but I've never really felt like she's a huge issue. And especially because Purify is good outside of defenders. Like you can use it to remove a lock. You can use it to remove a bounty. You can use it to remove a poison. You can use it to remove bleeding. You can use it to remove vitality on your opponent. Like it's got enough practical uses that even if you don't end up using it on a defender, you should still be able to find value with it. So like I don't feel like defenders are like necessarily too bad. Whereas I guess if the only way you could counter them was Purify and Purify only worked on defenders, it would feel a lot worse.
That's it's like it's not as binary as how artifacts used to feel, or binary like Imler's Sabbath from vintage Gwent used to feel, where the answer to defenders, there are a lot of them, but you still need it in a lot of cases. Like if you still don't have that answer, even though there's a lot of options, it still really sucks, especially when you get Letho Kingslayer, double Skellen, double Damien, crazy. Like if you just, I mean, you should have if you're going into round 3, like you should have an answer for the defender. Like I think that any meta deck does, but that feels like maybe forced inclusion for Purify, which doesn't feel that bad if you're Nilfgaard, let's say, but feels kind of bad when Pellar is your only choice.
Oof.
I mean, what do you think?
Especially for Northern Realms, right? Because they only have the Kutkudak, which only purifies their own units. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like maybe Northern Realms could use a unit that can also target the opponent's units to purify them.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be insane. It just...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Northern Realms is doing that badly. They can just kill the defender instead of purifying it.
I mean, it is true. It's not that they're doing badly. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to speak from expertise, even though I am a disgraced Northern Realms ambassador. It's the last I tried them first on day 1, and I just didn't. The meta was obviously just a jumble
Yeah,
of whatever.
I saw your tweet.
So I was unsatisfied with Northern Realms. I still kind of am in some ways, but it's not that Shawnee is bad. Shawnee's probably pretty good with
And Philip is
Dawnmere.
actually really good.
Philip is decent, yeah.
Oof.
I played with her a bit
I
more.
think, I think she's underrated by you, man. She can definitely do really well.
It's not that her effect is bad. I just think that one was really just like, it's like they must have thought that this was the most powerful effect in the game. Like when you get above a certain provision point, putting 1 strength on something is saying that like it's as good as Avalok, right? It's as good as sourcing an artifact from your deck and playing it for that provision level. So I just felt like 1 was super harsh, but the effect is very good. It just the tempo. I just felt like maybe it could just be just a little bit more tempo, but probably maybe it's just not necessary.
All the realms is all right. You can also, you've usually got dual options. You know, if you're running Selkirk, if you're running Inspired Zeal, then you're always using one of the charges on Selkirk, so you can always kill a defender. If you're going for, say, a pincer maneuver, you usually manage to get enough units onto the board or engines onto the board that you should be able to damage a defender if you really want to. But a lot of the time you're also boosting up your own units, and then you have things like, you know, if you get, say, a Kidweni Sergeant, then you play Anses on front row, then you boost it, then you can use that to duel. So I don't know, I don't think defenders are like too bad for NR. And like I've played enough people who play freaking Dandelion Visigotta, and I'm just like,
obviously.
Okay, every time I play a card, you get more charges and Visigoth gets harder to deal with. And I mean, I was playing Harmony, so I just basically had to double poison it in 1 turn by using coal for poison rather than yeah.
Which is a reasonable answer.
Yeah, it's reasonable, but it's like, I don't know. I think NR has some good stuff.
My big disappointment with Northern Realms Defender is that it doesn't have a formation ability. It doesn't care if it's boosted at all. It doesn't have an order at all. Like it just doesn't. Like I don't want it to have everything, but I feel like it just doesn't have anything. Like it just has a shield.
Yeah,
that's it. It just has a shield.
I don't think I actually play the defender, the NR defender at all.
I mean, I do play the defender because you can, you know, play it from leader and then play it next to the portal or like next to another really good engine. So in that case, it's good because it has the defender ability. But yeah, what McBird is saying, like it only has shield, and you're not gonna get rid of it with King Ragnar, for example.
Yeah, nothing interacts with it except for like Ragnar. Like, why would you take it off?
Yeah. Why would you take it off, right? You want to keep it on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do agree that maybe some inspired ability or like some formation would be really cool.
I don't know. I kind of feel like NR, you have enough engines that you don't necessarily need to protect your portal, especially if you're running pincer maneuver. Because if you're going to push and you're going first, you basically play a portal, play pincer maneuver, play something like Roche, play a portal, have about 4 units on the board, and then they can't deal with them all. They spend removal on, say, your 3.4 provision units, and then you play like Anna Strenga, you play Shani, you play Visigotta, for example. You can play Dandelion, and if they can't keep that in check because they're not playing Nilfgaard, which, you know, most people, well, some people aren't doing. I wouldn't say most people, there's a lot of Nilfgaard at the moment. Then I don't think it's that difficult to win, even without a defender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But like, I don't know. I've played a fair amount of Squirtel Defender. I've played a fair amount of, obviously, Nilfgaard Defender, Syndicate Defender. I haven't played any Skellige. And I've played Northern Realms, but I don't use Defender in Northern Realms.
I think they all just have enough of a weakness that it seems like, I don't think they got any of them, like none of them seem overtuned. I think that for what they do, they all do it. I think that the Northern Realms one is uninteresting, but it's not like it's not a good defender. I mean, a defender with shield and armor is obviously not bad. It's just, it kind of just speaks towards the ability itself. I feel like that's the one that embodies the ability carrying that card more than anything else. So there's that. But the Skellige Defender, at least, I mean, the Skellige Defender is amazing in so many ways. Like, I love the interaction. I like the way it works with self-wounding. I like the artwork and how it kind of even has good flavor and actually has like that kind of weirdo Sucrus interaction. But it's just not, there's just better cards for Skellige or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not being played.
Exactly.
Or you need to protect that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that I wanted to talk about the Ramon Turcanel story, but it feels so far after the fact. I'm not going to tell it, but did you guys...
Is this like long artist name? Is it to do with that?
No. It's just that when they gave me my card reveal, we all got like all Gwent, almost every Gwent. We can just talk about this a little bit because if you just didn't know it happened, it's kind of a funny story. If you didn't know about it,
Brilliant.
It's pretty funny.
Brilliant.
So we all Gwent partners got a card to reveal, or most Gwent partners, especially if you didn't get one to reveal during Novigrad or Crimson Curse, or well, Novigrad when Gwent partner program was active.
Yes.
So I got to reveal. So Jaggerous, you revealed the Nilfgaard Defender.
Afan Hilligrand. No,
Oh no, Hilligrand.
I revealed the one who jumps out of the deck. I think it was the first reveal because I was literally at the airport.
Was.
And Kazi's like, "Hey Jag, you wanna reveal?" And I'm like, "I'm on my phone, but I can do it before I get on my flight." So
It's true. It was
so we
super
did
soon.
that. It was really quick. Yeah, I got that one, and then you got a Northern Realms card, didn't you?
Well, hold on,
The Northern
BabyJosus.
Realms
Which one was
Ambassador.
yours? Which one was yours, BabyJosus?
Of course you did not remember because nobody has played it so far. But it's Highwayman, I believe it's called. Highwayman.
Oh, Highwayman. Well, it kills Andrega eggs. I do like that about it. It's like, I actually hate Andrega eggs so much. I look at Highwayman like, maybe. So I got Ramon Turcanel, which is not a Northern Realms card. However, the artwork that I received had the Northern Realms logo on it, and the communication I received had "This is a Northern Realms card" in all that communication. And I was a little busy. Also, just I don't know why. I just didn't really look into the lore. I just kind of made some assumptions based on all the information I had. And I really sold it. I'm like, I am going to bust you guys open with an amazing Northern Realms card. This is going to blow your mind. This is the thing. This is a card the faction can't believe they're making this card. Oh, baby. Every other faction getting something hot. Here we go. Boom. I had like a full constructed tweet about it. And I was wrong because it wasn't actually a Northern Realms card. It was a Nilfgaard card.
Got him.
And it was like it was pretty funny. So if you haven't seen that video specifically, it was like my 4th card reveal video. Check it out. I'll put it in the description.
If it makes you feel better, when Spiro was given his card reveal, he's a Gwent streamer and part of TLG. They, for some reason, Berger said to him, "This is surrender 202406," which is the card ID. And instead of being like, "Huh, that's a kind of weird name for a card. What's up with that? I should probably ask about that." He was just like, "Yep, seems right. Seems like that's what it's called." So when he did his reveal, he was like, "Here's
boy.
surrender 202406," and
with the code next to it.
yeah, and he tweeted. I actually have a screenshot of it.
That's fantastic.
Because I'm that kind of person. But you're not the only one who had an interesting time when they revealed their cards. So
Maybe that was an important Temerian address, and Spiro didn't know it. It's like, oh, the battle. Maybe it was like a year. Maybe it was a year. It could have been. It's like, well, it's not 4 numbers. It's like 6, right? It's 6.
Yeah.
So
it's the date. It's actually
could be
the
full
date
test phone number. I mean, who knows? It's like you call it in. Emir, I surrender.
It's the date of World Masters. It's 2020 on the 24th of June.
The 24th of June.
Apparently,
Say
that's quite a
it
while
ain't
away.
so.
Let's hope it's not that.
Say it ain't so. I mean, season 2 sooner, hopefully, than any. I mean, whatever. That's a discussion for a different day. We need to know some stuff, though. That would be great, I think. So, like, what else is there to talk about? Because obviously, the Iron Judgment has changed a lot. The hotfix just hits. It's only been 2 days right now. So, discussing beyond this, we've talked about a lot of the factions. Let's talk about maybe Skellige. They got 2 kind of rando buffs with Draco Turtle and Terror of the Sea. It didn't necessarily make them, I guess, more viable, but I think it, much like the nerfs, Jaggerous made a great point. It's kind of like if dwarfs are being complained about and people really hate it, especially Rostak dwarves with their reputation for Midwinter, maybe a little cooling effect is all the meta needs, even if it's a little heavy-handed. But there is a warming effect in the waters for the Terror of the Seas and Draco Turtle. I played a little bit. I think Terror of the Seas is pretty good. I think Draco Turtle is okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
With Iris. Yeah, I think with Iris is like, give me a lot of points, but I don't know. Aside from that, I don't know.
I think Skellige is going to be point slam. I think Skellige, like, it takes a while because people are like, oh, we've got, like, these interactions where we can have, say, like, the priest and the protector and the veteran or the turtle, and we're going to put these pieces here, and we're going to make it do this, and then this is going to happen. And it's like, nah, just, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just slam points and probably win by doing that. Marjoram, for example, is a really interesting card with things like the Draco Turtle or anything with armor, because you deal 3 damage, then you boost by, 9? You can also create that with Triss. It can give you extra cards. Yeah, it gives you extra charges on the Gremist as well, because I believe it is a what's the kind of card?
Alchemy.
Like,
it procs the alchemy.
Yep. So then you get some extra cleanses if you want, and I think that's what we're gonna see from Skellige. And at the moment, like, people are too busy being like, I want to play interactions. But the thing is, like, you really need 3 priests in that deck if you want to do interactive stuff. And if you don't draw a priest, then you're kind of sad because bronzes are a bit weird. But let's just play point slam, and it's something I want to play around with, and I think it could be quite. I think pretty good. I think not terrible.
Skellige
We'll
still
see.
has
I don't want to say it's going to be like tier 1, but maybe tier 2.
Definitely not. Definitely not tier 1. I don't know, maybe
Something's got to be
tier 2.
cracked, I think, to go. Tier 2 is a fun place to be, really. I mean, ideally, everything is. Ideally, like, tier 1 has a lot of decks, and tier 2 has, like, good matchups against some of those tier 1 decks, I think, in, like, a perfect world. I think Skellige, like, the thing about priest needing to stick is that at least they're 5 strength when they proc, and you can play them 2 extra times from the graveyard, which, I mean, I think Freya being alchemy, Grimace being decent, like, all that stuff really helped kind of replaying bronze cards and, like, letting your bronze cards carry you. I played Corsairs. Whew, just keep dragging those things out of the graveyard. That's a good card, Corsair, Necker out of the Sea. Like, and then just playing extra ships because, like, you know, you bleed something down to 3, or you put on the Encrate Longship and it damages something at 4 to 3. Then you're just playing your warship to finish it off, and then you're adding another bleed stack to something else. It felt really, really good. What you pair that with is really up in the air. You could put that, like, package into, like, any other, like, overarching high value gold shell, and I think it would work really well with Skellige.
It's almost like you play Deadlove. Or I should say Blood Sound.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Blood Sound all the time.
How are you finding this shift away from leaders and not saying Full Test or Kalanth or Detlef? How are you getting on with it?
I think we're all just gonna get used to it.
I have a rough time.
I don't find it too bad, to be honest. I thought I would find it worse, but like the decks that you commonly see, you tend to know the names of the abilities, and then, you know, as other abilities come into the meta, I feel like you'll learn the names. So, like, I don't really mind it. My only issue I have at the moment is, for some reason, when I play Scoia'tael, I set my leader as Francesca, and it keeps making me be Philavandrel.
Oh yeah,
there's a bug. I don't know how to control the bug either. Same. A Syndicate had one. I was always Gudrun, no matter what. I couldn't unselect her, and then one day I did.
Like, then when you have Cleaver's old ability wildcard, then Gudrun has Cleaver voice lines.
But that's also a weird thing because not always, but sometimes, yeah. I feel like I've heard Gudrun's voice line tons, but not played against Gudrun at all. However, Nilfgaard for sure. Emir has Usurper's voice line when you put lockdown on Emir. Philavandrel has Francesca's voice line. Yeah.
I did not even know about that.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
And
there's a lot of
Radovid
sound
is
bugs.
just Hada the whole time.
Yeah.
Radovid's great.
I kind of expected them to, you know, get rid of some of the bugs with a hotfix, but maybe it was too quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. The
like
one that
there's a
annoys
lot.
me the most is the background sound. Okay, actually, there's a couple that annoy me the most, but one of the ones that annoys me the most is the background sound, where they've added in these board effect sounds, which you can't adjust the volume for.
Yeah.
So, like, some boards, like I believe the boat one is constant, like, sea noise. One of them, the monsters one, it has rain, and it's like, it's not even raining on this board. Why is there rain sounds? But the way that you fix it is you have to basically, like, because that volume is not in any way controllable in Gwent, you have to put all your sounds loud and then adjust the Gwent sound in the volume mixer of your PC. Yeah, in order to fix it. And it's just, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one annoys me. And the other one that annoys me is I can't, at the moment, our pincer maneuver shows the order of the cards in your deck, which doesn't feel very fair.
Oh yeah.
So is that didn't get fixed, I guess.
No, I don't think it got fixed.
That actually reminds me of the Bran exploit in old beta.
Dandelion too. Dandelion used to do it too. He used, the one you used to buff the cards in your deck. I actually released. That's like one of my. That was like one of my first like bigger videos when I figured that out. But people already knew it at that point. But they knew it because of Bran, like you said. They knew it because of Bran, or they knew it because of some other Skellige card specifically.
Yeah, and there's also one other bug, which is still a game-breaking bug that did they not get rid of, which is the yoinking.
Seizing a shielded
interaction.
Yeah, that one's frustrating.
If you remove a shield from a unit,
yeah, and then yoink it. Yeah, I heard that a lot of people had like issues with that during the tournament. They had to replay their matches or play around it.
Crozier, I think specifically, was somebody that I saw talking about it. Not to, I mean, I don't know, that doesn't matter, but it's just a thing where, you know, what if the best line of play is actually removing the shield from Helga or removing the shield from Dawnmere and taking it? Like, that's just...
I've accidentally done it once to myself, and I think I was going to win that game, so I was really annoyed. So I was like,
Oh.
why is it a draw? And I was like, oh, the bug. And then I've also had it happen once against me, and that was in a game I thought I was going to win. But I don't know if I don't really think they had another line of play at that point, like because of the point difference. They needed to seize, and then that was really the only viable target because everything was either too high or too low or untargetable. So like I get it, but it's kind of frustrating. But I mean, if you're playing Nilfgaard, it's more frustrating, right? Because then you get the Nilfgaard mirrors where it's more likely.
Yeah, it's likely. If people just
whereas
forget.
like, yeah, that's fair. I forgot. I knew it was a bug, then basically did it, and then was like, oh, for God's sake, why did I just do that? On the plus side, I was streaming, so I have like video proof that it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, I mean, the first day, the day that I only experienced it one day, but it was with 2 games. The first one I learned about it when I stole my opponent's Hefty Helga, and then in another situation, my opponent stole mine. Also, just quick shout out, Usurper actually having an animation for an activated ability. Did you guys notice that? We have actually never seen Usurper activate an ability before. So he has his little deck where he goes rah. Like I don't know if they added it or he always had it, but it's just kind of like you would normally never see that, right?
Oh, I'm gonna try that out.
Yeah.
I've only played Anna Henrietta. I'm like rocking my lady leader. I can rock a lady leader that's totally happening.
Yeah.
And I've decided that Svalblob is now a girl.
Well, that's a lie because when I saw you playing monsters, you weren't playing Gurnikora, and I was going to make a funny comment about it in the chat, but I didn't.
That was because I spoke to chat, and then we realized, first of all, the Unseen Elder in his skin, where he has all his armor and his staff. If you turn around, there's like a face on his butt. So we had a little giggle about that.
Yeah.
And then they found out that I didn't actually have Detlef as a skin, so they wanted me to play Detlef. And okay, I did play some Detlef rather than some Gurnikora or Arrakis snowball thing.
So do you guys still like use you guys actually use different leader skins for the?
You gotta trick your opponent for sure.
Yeah, you have to discombobulate him while it still works.
Every advantage that we can have. Like, how do you think I got to ladder?
Those mind games, man.
The mind games.
So that I was playing Detlef, I was playing Deathwish.
Yeah.
Actually,
I'm still using. Yeah, I'm still using like the old leader skins. For example, Franny with Harmony, like Mystic Echo ability. Yeah.
It's weird because like I feel like if I'm not using Brewer for the dwarf deck, it feels like I don't know. It just feels weird, even though that like it's just kind of this is something the community always wanted, right? They wanted to like the leaders to make sense for the decks that we're playing. So it mean that if they added a dwarf, they had to make sure that it always coincided with what Brewer's current ability was. Like what a headache for them. So I think that for the most part, this should make a lot of people happy. Like the unspoken people, like some people are. I've seen some comments out there. I do peruse Reddit, even though I'm outspoken about how I feel about that place sometimes, but I do look at it a lot. So I try to take in a lot of the appreciation posts, especially because they usually don't sing as loudly as the people that might be, especially rightfully, complaining about state of bugs and stuff like that. Anyway, I think that it's great. I like playing certain leaders. Like I do prefer Bran and Skellige. I do prefer, like I'm using my reward points on like the way that they sell the stuff in store with like the borders and the stuff. Like if I really wanted it, I don't have to invest the time. Like in some ways I don't have the time to do seasonal, but I would like to eventually unlock Dijkstra's skin. Even though I don't play a lot of Syndicate, he's like Captain Canada. He's got the big red and white, the Redanian intelligence skin. I love that. Also, I guess Polish people can play that as well, and it's very much in the colors.
I like the leader skin thing also because I am so ready for a few things. Number one, if I could beat Roach in every game, I would just have Roach leader and just neigh at my opponents, and that would be fantastic. You know, like leaders that are skins. Number one, exactly. That's just like, well, here's all my money. Number two, Yennefer leader, so that I can basically flex on all those Triss leader people who clearly don't understand how the world works.
Oh man.
Like I'm going full BM if there's ever a Triss leader, let me tell you that. And number three, monsters, Basket Head, she's my one true waifu, so if I could ever have her as my leader, you may know her as Brewis, then that would be great.
Those are 3 really good choices that probably aren't even like immediately coming to mind. I mean, the first thing when you think about, you know, how do you make the Reddit community happy? You just whisper those 3 little words. Wrong. Another mistake. You want Geralt. You want Geralt back there, standing up there, or Dandelion, right? Observe a master in action.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are like the immediate things that I think people will talk about if they're talking about like the world that opens up when you can just kind of play whatever character that you love from The Witcher the most. I didn't even think about Triss and Yen, which is weird because I figure the rate at which they're coming out doesn't seem fast enough that Triss and Yen would come out before Geralt, or even Dandelion. Like,
no, I don't think so.
observe
But
like even the Great Dandelion Show, just keeping the Dandelion's profiles super high all the time, right? Observe a master in action.
Yeah.
But this will come
Yeah,
as a
but-
surprise.
And another thing is that you can just really easily unlock all the contracts for the leaders. Like you need 100 wins with Francesca, you need 100 wins with Vilafantro, and it's really easy to unlock those. And then you get like the special border for the faction, which is
Mhm.
really cool. That's something I do like. Because yeah.
I want to know what the chat feels like about this. I want to know what the chat feels like about this whole podcast, as I just nailed my microphone again. I hope I didn't break it. I have it on the other side of my desk now. So I hope I didn't just break it there, and I may have actually just broken it. But I want to know what the
You're
chat
okay.
has to say. I mean, if I sound good to you guys, I probably sound good on the
Yeah.
chat as well. What do you
Yeah,
guys
you
think?
sound good to me.
What do you guys think about leader decoupling? What do you guys think about any questions for my two guests right now? Let us know. Tag me at McBearded, and we'll be right back.
Look at all these animations.
That's pretty cool. We can talk, right? They
You're
don't hear us.
flexing.
For some reason, we can talk, right? I love it. I love it. No, I mean, it's the thing is, like, I've had since we moved, I've had so many issues, like setting up my stream deck. For some reason, like I lost my monitor during the move. Well, I didn't lose it, but the moving company did. It made, like, I had a podcast that was just really out because I had to do it with one monitor. I had to reset up everything, and then my internet died. Also, Challenger happened. It's all since I've moved. So just having like a script written, all my transitions set up, my stream deck is set up. I have all my audio ready again. It's just been a while. It's just, some things just fall behind the back of the dresser, and I just don't think I want that to happen to the podcast anymore. So shout outs to all of you in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. How do we feel about the game if we look back over the last year? How do we feel about the year ahead? Professor Murdoch in the chat. Great question. Anybody who wants to take that one?
I mean, I feel pretty fantastic about the current state of GWENT. So, yeah, really enjoying it. I mean, every time when there's like an expansion, it's always excited to play GWENT. But yeah, I think they definitely did a good job on this expansion. Yeah, looking
Yeah, I think
forward to the future.
because it's what 23rd of October. Is that like homecoming birthday? I think
25th, actually, because it
25th.
was like Gwent Christmas, or it was what is it? Gwentmas, you know.
Yeah,
Oh wait,
yeah,
the 25th
something like
was
that.
open
I mean,
beta. Yeah, open beta. It was also on the 25th as well. I think they were both 25ths.
so like in terms of the year, I think the game itself has come a really long way. I mean, I obviously have spoken about the fact that I've not had the best year personally on my own social media and stuff, where like I had personal issues which kind of coincided with homecoming and then just like kind of fell off the face of the planet for a few months. But I did, I was always keeping up to date with Gwent, and I think where Gwent was at homecoming compared to where Gwent now is very different. And I
Yes.
think that different in a good way. I think they've definitely improved a lot of things. I think that the biggest issue Gwent has at the moment is accessibility for new players. But obviously with iOS coming out, there's definitely something that CDPR are very aware of. But because the thing is, at the moment, there's so much to read. Like there's so many keywords, and they just added more keywords. So like you're playing, and it's like my opponent's played a defender with thrive and a shield and vitality and bleeding and doomed, and then like I think it can be a little bit overwhelming in that regard. And then if you're playing on mobile where people typically expect simpler games, that might be a bit scary. But having spoken to CDPR at Challenger, like I know that new player experience is something that's like really high priority for them. So I would imagine that we'll see some improvements coinciding with around iOS kind of time. And I know me as a content creator, I plan to make some more beginner content, going forward in the next couple of weeks, so that my YouTube channel at least has some stuff there for the newbies to come and check out and
people need it.
Introduce
returning
them.
players too. There's just the stuff changes all the time.
Yeah.
Like I think for Gwent, I think 3 expansions in a year is the direction we want to move in as far as like the game moving forward. And like if it's every 3 months, like that means that there could be one in December or even January. So 4 expansions a year is very ambitious. However, the expansions aren't so large, so it just means that the meta changes more, but at an acceptable pace. It also means rotation could be a conversation a year from now. I also would like to be talking a year from now on competitive events, because I think that that's like good for the future. I think that the biggest problem with this year, not so much the game moving forward, not so much the game getting better. God, no, the game got so much better. Oh, like every expansion felt better and better. Even the bad metas, I was enjoying myself. I was, especially now, I'm looking forward to playing every day right now. I never played before a podcast, but I did today. And I want to do that all the time. It's just really.
I streamed 6 hours yesterday, or no, the day before. I really went ranked 2, and then I got ranked 2 to rank 0 in 4 hours the next day, and I was like, well, that was efficient. But yeah, I totally get it. Like I'm really excited to play Gwent and talk about Gwent and make YouTube videos about Gwent, which is good.
So iOS bringing in new people, new player experience stuff would be great, and then let's go pro. That's what I want. Wow, lots of questions coming in here. Here, just a quick question for you guys from Kopor. How do you think Knickers works? That's the new doggo that jumps out of your deck at a random time. However, will always jump out in round 3 if it didn't jump out of your deck Roach style before. What do you guys think about that? How do you think he works?
How does it work? Like, what triggers it to come out?
What triggers it to actually play it? Like, is it? I mean, there's no true random, right? Like, especially if it's a higher odds later in the game. Like something, there's gonna be something in the background there, right?
Yeah, Bane and I, we really wanted to, figure out the algorithm of Knickers, but before Shimiri, but we were not able to do that. But there were some scenarios where we just called Knickers, and then Knickers got out of the deck.
Yeah, you just have to whistle into the microphone, and
you just have to whistle in the mic.
just jingle like a treat jar. Just get that that sound.
Yeah,
a specific sound.
I don't think it's something that the community is going to figure out. Like, so we had this meme at Challenger. You know about this one, right, Dane? About
how long your name
triggers
was,
the dog,
or something
right?
like that. Like how long your username was, or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like
that.
Okay, so if your username has vowels in it, and it's a Tuesday or a Thursday, and it's before 12 p.m., then if you take the number of letters in your username and divide it by the number of letters in your opponent's name. Now, you also then assign a value for their leader ability, multiply it by the value assigned to their leader skin. And then, like to create RNG in a game is very, very difficult. And like no RNG is really true RNG, but people are like, oh, there's something that will trigger it to happen. That doesn't mean like, oh, if I play like 2 bronze units in a row, it'll happen or something. It's not that simple. So I don't think anyone's ever going to figure it out.
Cut to Jason saying we're so busy. Like cut to Jason saying we're so busy, and then like the idea that they had to program Knickers with like 100 lines of code to make the card make sense.
And the thing is, when we spoke to Jason about it, he was like, well, if the community ever figures it out, we'll just go to whatever it is that triggers it and like change one number. And then obviously that's brand new RNG. So then it's like, we figured it out. And then it's like, well, nope. So it's a fun question, but I don't think that there's going to be a situation where you can figure out what it is that causes it to happen.
What if, like a dog that you like meet for the first time, what if the card you put into the deck right before you put the dog into the deck becomes like bonded? So the sound of that card's voice is what pulls the dog out of the deck. Let's test that theory. Test that theory out. I just thought of like a really crazy conspiracy theory, but easily debunked, right? Easily debunked.
But yeah. Speaking of the doggo, though, the one thing I would have liked, which I did say, as this was my feedback from the PTR, this was the only piece of feedback that I gave, was I want to be able to mouse over any card with a dog on it, and then the cursor starts doing like a little petting animation.
Yeah. Change the "Can you pet the dog" Twitter account, right? You change the hand into like this.
It does like your finger does a little click, so that you do obviously have hand animations. And then there's a Twitter account that's like can you pet the dog, and it's all about whether you can pet dogs in video games or not. You want like loads of free advertising for Gwent? Do that.
All they had to do is change the hand from like this to this, and then you can just do it yourself. Just pet the dog, and that would be
exactly.
Yeah, it's huge.
But only when you're mousing over specific cards.
Interesting.
All right, I'm gonna grab another question here from the chat. Let's see. Synergy Guide. This will be the last question. I wish I could get to them all. This will be the last question. Synergy Guide 3773. Do you think the control archetypes are completely dead, or do you anticipate a resurgence of control at any point? I think control is definitely not dead. I think Nilfgaard's doing it the best at the moment.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I mean, Nilfgaard is like the only viable control deck, in my opinion. I don't feel like any other faction can really play control at the moment. It's like control was like meta, and then they nerfed control, and now engines are meta. And I hope there will be a balance at some point.
Hmm.
So you have like engines, and you have some more control, and like it just yeah, that will be amazing. But yeah, I hope that day will come anytime.
Yeah, just control needs to basically always have an answer for defender, and then all the control they need to answer. Like if you stop the defender, for example, like Stefan Skellen and Damien, right? Like they're just vulnerable units. So you take the defender away, now your control's good again because you can kill those things. But it's just like a big thing you have to think about. What do you think? Yeah, go.
I like engine meta. And this is as Nilfgaard Faction Ambassador. I think Nilfgaard is the only faction you can really play control in at the moment. But I quite like engine meta because it makes the games more interesting. Like when we had lots of control meta, when it was all like Detlef was quite common, or things like Unicorn and Kyronex before they get adjusted, and you had all these like 4-point removal and nothing would really stick on the board, and you didn't really have card interactions. You made a lot fewer decisions in a game. Whereas now it's like if I'm playing NR and I've got like 8 different units that all have like charges or some variation of that, and how I sequence that, I have to think about it. If I'm playing control, I need to figure out what do I need to hold control for versus what should I spend points on removing. If I'm playing like a harmony deck, there's a lot more sequencing involved in that list as well. If you're playing monsters, you have to kind of make some decisions about how you play your bleeding, or how you play your death wishes, and what kind of targets you want to be hitting with that. Like in some ways, I think control not being as strong is good. And in games like say MTG, they have like red is the control faction, right? That red is, if you play red, you play damage or you go face or
I mean,
something.
that's a complicated. I mean, red is direct damage, blue is counter spell,
Like,
black is
yeah,
destroy.
okay,
things.
basically,
I mean,
right? But like
there's
you have
those 3 colors, not
Yeah.
the other 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Or so like if you only have like Nilfgaard being control, that's fine in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some engines and they do have some tempo, but tempo is like their weakest spot. Like finding points with Ardal before this expansion was sometimes hard. So but that's just the way it is. Their engines are okay, and their control is very good.
And now you play Enslave 6.
Some
That
people
was
do.
a meme last season.
It was. It's just it's just
Enslave 6. I'm still
people still play it sometimes.
Thinking, is it actually good?
If it didn't crash the game, I mean, you can
Enslave
still
5,
Dawnmere, I guess, in the Northern Realms matchup, and it doesn't crash the game if you don't purify
against
him
Northern
first.
Realms, it's really good.
Yeah,
I like it in general. I think like it gives you a little bit more wiggle room, which is nice. And I think like the tactics are pretty good at the moment, so it's not too hard to get there. I mean, Enslave 5 is good too. Like they're both pretty good.
The interesting thing about an engine meta was like the last thing that maybe we can just talk about before we wrap it up. But I just want to say that when you have like a blow away counter, that's sometimes all you need. Like if you have like Igni and you get like not just a good Igni, but also like you destroy like a bunch of engines. Or if you have Erden, I think Erden's the best example. Like if you have Erden, you could just win. There's a lot of matches where you just win with Erden. It's just all your opponent's work is undone in that one card if you have last say. So I feel like the counters are more serious in an engine meta, I think, which I think I need to experiment with more.
I think Erden's really good in Deathwish. You have room for it because you don't really need your defender. I think it was Mayamon who's been playing Erden. I want to say Erden Deathwish, and I think it's pretty good. I think it's probably the best variation of Deathwish.
Yeah,
Deathwish is not bad. I got from rank 3 to rank 2 by playing 6 hours of Deathwish, so I feel like
super good.
I didn't even play Erden at that point. So there are matchups where Erden's pretty good, but I think that's the deck you'll most commonly see it in.
Yeah, the thing is with Deathwish is like in the beginning of the season, nobody was playing Toll Removal, so Deathwish was really strong. But when I played it yesterday, I kept walking into people running Toll Removal, and then you kind of have a hard time when you're really greedy like me.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it. Was it Mokvarg, Heart of the Seas, onto a 49-point Slizzard on a stream. I think it was on the Spirit stream, and it's just like it pinged. What was it like 40?
Go make a sandwich.
5 times. Like, okay, play this. Ping 45 times. Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, the person who was playing just kept eating everything for no apparent reason. Yeah, so like, kind of deserved it at that point.
But that's the thing, right? If you play Kaltulis, you kind of have to eat your own units, and that's a very greedy strategy, but you kind of have to. But that's why you can also like really get punished by it.
Yeah,
but that's good.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there right now. Like, there's a lot of cards that really punish Swarm. There's a lot of cards that punish Wide. A lot of cards that punish Tall. A lot of cards that punish Boost. And then there's Control, which, I mean, it seems like really out there right now. I think that I'm watching streams now more than ever, like, because I want to actually see like what people are playing, when people are like, what's good, and I'm just looking forward to just kind of this meta continuing to develop. Both of you are playing lots of Gwent and making content. Jaggerous, you're starting some new content apparently and streaming as well. Where can people find you when you're doing that?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jaggerous. Although possibly not streaming tonight. We'll see. I'll see how tired I am. But usually in the evenings, CEST. So around like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. CST, that's when you'll kind of find me. Also on YouTube, youtube.com/Jaggerous. I uploaded a deck guide today. It'll be the first of many. And I'm not just saying that this time. It's definitely going to happen. No, it was good. I'm feeling very into content creation. And I got up early this morning to make sure I could make the video and have it uploaded. Harmony, that's the next big thing. I'm telling you now. And I got to Pro Ladder with it. So therefore it's good because I'm trash at Gwent. But if you play it now before everyone else plays it, then you'll get to Pro Ladder. But if you play it like tomorrow, probably not so good.
Yeah, that early
and also
rush.
Twitter @Jaggerous. And also I want to shout out TLG because I did join them this week. They have been super awesome and helped me. Well, I'm like, what deck shall I play today? I'm just like, oh, here is a channel on the Discord filled with decks made by pro players. Let's just pick one.
Yeah. TLG's got a lot of great people. I'm scared to even mention any of them because I don't want to leave anybody out. But I think that they're just some of my best friends in Gwent are in that team, in my opinion. BabyJosus, and now including another good friend, Jaggerous, joining the team. I think that's really cool, and I think it's cool that you're going to be doing stuff for newer players because I think it's really important. So returning players, newer players, I think there's going to be a huge swing here because mobile is going to. I mean, like a good mobile game sometimes is hard to find. I mean, only so much stuff can bring your interest or take over your interest. But for some people, maybe just returning to Gwent, having it on the phone is the ease that they need. It's going to be pretty cool. So anyway, BabyJosus, you also playing lots of Gwent out there, streaming on a regular basis. Where can people find you when you're doing your thing?
Yeah, just under BabyJosus on Twitch. That's it. You can find me, on work days. I will most likely stream Gwent. And sometimes in the weekend, I do a bonus stream. Depends if I have the time or the mood to stream. And on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter also under BabyJosus. That's it. I want to make more content in the future, like maybe write articles for Team Rankstar or like produce more videos. I do sometimes help other teammates out with their content, like attending a podcast or like attending a video to make like a deck guide for them. But I also want to do like more stuff on my own, like more projects.
Right.
So
So I'm going to do a shout out for you then. Merchants of Nilfgaard podcast, which we did together. You were on it with Weisenberg TV, and we did that with Flake. So that's actually out there right now. You can search for it, or you can find it in the description. I'll add it. So this is not the first podcast we've done this week. Well, Saturday. It was on Saturday morning for us.
Yeah, so. Saturday.
Yeah. Merchants of Nilfgaard podcast is out there, and I think that's it. Any closing statements from anybody? I just really thanks so much for you guys coming on the show. Of course, it's always great to have my friends come on and help me make content. Just like you said, it's the only way I can catch up with people, right, Jaggerous?
Exactly. You really asked to come in on your podcast. Thanks for having me. I've had it's been lovely to talk about Gwent, and I think it's the third time I've been on your podcast now. So it's nice to like still be relevant.
You had the famous taxi cab post. There was a post Challenger taxi cab ride we did, or post Open or something. That was a good one because we already had a couple beers.
We've done a few.
That was a good talk. Yeah.
It was my first time, so I'm really happy that I got invited. It was very cool. Get some recognition, and much thanks for that. Guys.
Well, thanks very much so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for everybody in the chat as well. Twitch.tv/McBearded is where you can find this. Thursdays of the day, I'm going to start doing this as weekly as possible. I think just got to keep up with the scheduling, but definitely more frequently than you've been expecting it. We'll wrap this up here. Follow the show at Commander's Horn for updates on the next show, and follow me at McBeardCH on Twitter. Hang out at Twitch.tv/McBearded and watch all the latest antics on my YouTube channel where I am McBeard. Search McBeard Gwent or go to youtube.com/c/McBeard. Thanks for coming on the show, everybody. It's been a blast. And until next time, best of luck on the path.
talk.
Yeah, we could talk. I mean, I'm still. Let me hit stop.